bitch, niggas better ante up or elevate. I need 6-figure money, won't have the bucks and hella cake. Fuck boy, I been on dummy, shooting hella ops, make him a day. If not him, then kill his mama, make him feel his wrath in the hell away. Hydro shock bullets out into his chest, watch as they swim away. I don't stop shooting till you down in your last breath, and then I skid away. This a hollow tip.
Gang, what's poppin' with everybody out there, man? Y'all already know what's up with me. I came back, and I'm back to y'all with another one, man. Welcome back to the channel where we like to talk, we like to learn, and of course we like to grow. You feel me? I'm gonna always say that because that's what I like to do. I like to learn, I like to grow. How about y'all, family? Hopefully all y'all are well blessed. You feel me? Doing your best out there. And this is part 2 of David Wilcock's video. And you know, I had to come back with part 2 because he was popping, man. Like the things he was saying, he should not have been saying. You understand what I'm saying? So, like I said in part 1, when he was scared and he kept saying something about his channel being taken down, I told you. Just listen, gang. Listen when I tell you. And when I say it get wild, it get real wild, right? So we're gonna dive into it.
Never been a more difficult time in Earth's history to have a positive attitude, right? It's never been more difficult to think positively, to be happy, to be optimistic about the future, to feel safe in your home. Elizabeth and I, a month and a half ago, were sitting watching television, and we heard gunshots right outside the house. They were about 20 feet away because I saw the muzzle flashes. I saw flashes of light, bright white light, correlated with the sound, okay, on my curtains. And we're just sitting there going, whoa, okay, I don't know what to do here, but I think we should just sit still and just stay very calm and peaceful. And we heard additional gunshots, and it was like the person was driving off. Nobody called the police. We never heard sirens. We never saw flashing red and blue lights. Nothing happened. And whoever it was probably just drunk and shooting up into the sky. But that's very unsettling to have that happen around your own house where you actually see the muzzle flashes on the curtain. Now, I've told...
Now, you know what's crazy, y'all? Black people, we see that all the time. I'm not normalizing it. You know, I'm not discrediting what he's saying. But he got a point. You know, that's a high stress moment too. So he got a good point. Being able to even see not only the muzzle flashes, but shit, seeing somebody murdered in front of you, killed, getting shot at, or you feel me, you on the opposite end, you being shot at, that's also a high stress moment. It's a fearing moment. You feel me? It's a moment that drive your fear to the peak. You feel me? And it erase your peace. It erase your tranquility of peace. It erase your stillness, your calmness. You understand? But hey, the A-bombs he dropped, gang, y'all will never believe in a million years. So let's go. We gotta keep
this story before, but this is incredibly significant. One of these mass meditation groups took place in Lebanon. And Lebanon was in the middle of a very, very violent and destructive war as the gathering was taking place. So while these people are there meditating together, knowing the history, knowing that a group of people will reduce crime, fatalities, terrorism by up to 72%, they heard something like what was happening to me, but much, much, much worse. Machine guns, bombs going off, literally right outside the building that they were all meditating in. And they all had to make a decision at that point. Do we stay here and do we practice what we preach? Do we apply the science that we believe is true, that we've proven is true? Or do we run like hell and panic and run out the door and hope that we don't get shot on the way out? They decided to stay in place, to keep meditating, to stay calm. And so everybody, even as the sounds are going outside and everything like that is happening, they actually just meditated. Within 20 minutes, all of the noise stopped, all of the violence went away and it became completely quiet in the building outside. And people had tears streaming down their faces. People were hugging each other when it was over. It was unbelievable, because if there's ever a way to find out whether this really works, it's in that kind of a situation. So when I
and that was crazy because they held on to their faith, you know. They held on to their faith. You know, I can attest to certain what people call miracles. I can attest to certain situations like that, you know. And in these situations, I held on to what I would call my dignity, about my intuition, and about what I truly believe. You understand? And due to the fact I held on to that faith and what I truly believe, things went my way. Things went according. You know, there was no problem. There was no situation. You know, definitely because I didn't dwell on anything negative happening, anything out of the ordinary happening to me, to where I couldn't remain alive, safe, in peace. You feel me? And calm. So I do that. You know, I can get that. And due to the fact they held on to that faith, and like he said, the only way to find something like this out is by self-experience. You'll never be able to tell nobody, hey, yo, look, this can work that way, if you haven't even tried it for yourself and given it, you know, embodied tryout. You know what I'm saying? The embodied chance to feel it. That's why this is one of the biggest things he should have not said. That's why the government kept this shit so secretive. Y'all think they only hid the aliens. Man, listen, he ain't even begun yet, gang. The mind is so powerful.
I heard the gunshots outside my house. It's like, okay, I'm going to stay calm. I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to act crazy, because I might have an effect on this person. Some of the other things that we could talk about include studies from the Institute of Heart Math, in which they actually studied the brainwave activity, the heart rate, the respiratory rate, and galvanic skin response, which is the electrical activity on the surface of your skin, in people who lived next door to each other but had never even met. So they wire them up to these machines, and they study their breathing, their heart rate, their brainwave activity, and their electrical skin activity. What did they find? It's very, very fascinating. They found that we all synchronize with each other. And again, this is happening all the time. That's what the science reveals. Your heart rate is synchronizing with others. Your breathing rate is synchronizing with others. Your brainwave, the overall brainwave activity and the type of brainwave activity, obviously not specific details, but the overall character and quality of the brainwave activity was the same. And then the most interesting thing to me is that they found out very consistently that there's a big difference between someone who is in a state of stress and someone who is in a state of peace, happiness, love, and meditation. When you're in a state of peace, happiness, love, and meditation, you get very smooth brainwaves, okay? They're very smooth, and they don't have a lot of jaggedy pieces to them. And that indicates that your mind is quiet. You don't have a whole lot of thoughts going on. Whereas if you're in an agitated state, if you're nervous, if you're upset, if you're stressed out, you might have a lot of really choppy activity in your brainwaves, and it just does all this stuff. Over and over and over and over, these Institute of Heart Math studies showed that whoever has the greatest coherence wins. In other words, if you start meditating, the person next door to you actually calms down. They synchronize with you. You become the winning card. I'm not going to say the name of the card, because then that could get my channel taken down too. Special cards have special names. This is so ridiculous. This is so ridiculous, the whole thing. But anyway, that's another. We'll hang out later. I'll tell you more about it privately, but not here. Okay? We're friends. We can talk.
That part right there, you know, that was deep. And you could tell how he said what he said and scratched his head. And he said, this is so ridiculous. You feel me? he really is fed up and upset with what the world and the government is hiding from us. And he's also irritated because he cannot speak it. He cannot say it. He cannot alert the world, the civilians, you feel me, the rest of us about this special power, about this special ability that he's had, that we haven't honed into. You understand what I'm saying? So it's understandable now to me. I don't know about y'all. I don't know how much homework or research y'all did, but it's understandable now to me why they don't, certain people mention certain top secret, top classified information. You understand what I'm saying? Because only themselves, and when I mean themselves, what I mean by that is the elites, the people with the most power and the most money, only themselves are allowed to use this. Only themselves are allowed to be kept in a happiest state, the most exciting form and position and state of their lives. If you look around, that's why white people are always happy. That's why they always stay happy. That's why nothing really never bothers them, because they know mentally and consciously, you feel me, whether you positive or negative, you're going to get a result one way or the other way. Understand what I'm saying? They keep for more of a positive result. So they always got this nice uphill attitude about themselves. And I think with that attitude that they carry, no matter what you do to them, some of them don't get it twisted, not all of them. Some of them will clown your ass. Some of them act just like black people. You feel me? I swear it's scary. But with enough positivity, they can keep their mental, you know, in a positive, sharp state, in a positive, sharp position. And that's what's crazy to me. It's crazy because big culture and other cultures like Chinese, like, you know, the Indians, the Hindu people, they all knew this. They all knew this already. The only people didn't know is black people. And look around you, black people was the most violent, the most stressed out, the most worried, the most problem starters, the most, you feel me, scariest, the most feared culture on planet Earth.
You know what I'm saying. If you follow length of time, you know exactly what's going on. I don't need to tell you. There's lots and lots and lots of ways to find it, because it's a really easy to solve mystery, okay? And the ship is leaking and it's sinking fast and there's nothing they can do about it. And it's wonderful. Ultimately, if this all works out the way I think it will, it is incredibly wonderful. But let's get back to coherence. The person with the greatest coherence wins. And so this shows that even on an individual level of one person, that if you actually start meditating, if you actually pray, if you actually have a sense of peace and tranquility in your heart, scientifically speaking, you alter the free will of others right next door. Remember when I talked about that random number generator series of experiments? Well, did you know that one of the other ways that they could make the computer go into very, very non-random number generating, where they start giving patterns and the same numbers keep coming out, or the pattern of numbers comes out? Meditation. If you meditate in the room with the computer starts doing really weird stuff. Why? Because you're changing the way that electricity flows. You're changing the way that electricity flows around you in the atmosphere. You're changing the way it flows in the computer, and you're changing the way it flows in the people next door who don't know that you're meditating. Along these same lines, if you have read my latest book or if you followed what I'm doing, I've always talked about the significance to me of a spiritual body of knowledge called the Law of One. Now, the reason why I support this is only because it is so chock full of innovative and amazing new scientific modalities that I was then able to go out there and verify with research that did not exist at the time the book came through L&L Research in 1981. L&L Research, L&L stands for Light Love, okay? And the original team was 3 people: Dr. Don Elkins, who was a PhD physicist, Carla Ruckert, who was his companion, and then Jim McCarty, who moved in with them right before this new contact started in 1981. Now, they had been trying to do spiritual telepathy communication what they call tuned trance telepathy. You go into a very, very deep trance and you get your mind out of the way, you get your chattering ego out of the way, and allow the words to come through you as they do. This is something that can be taught, it can be studied, it can be practiced. I'm not doing that right now. I started to scratch the surface of it in our last class. Actually, the one before Path of Light, we did Great Awakening. Yeah, I started to talk about that, but again, the dream and...
Now, hold on to your horses, gang. You hear me? Hold on to your horses, because it's finna get juicy. You understand me? It's finna get real juicy. Yeah, hold on to your bridges, hold on to your horses, gang. Listen in, gang. He finna say some wild shit. Listen.
Analysis to me is really the most important practice. Please try to remember your dreams and write them down. And if you do get my new book, you can find out how those dreams analyze into guidance for you. And if you really are, if money is that bad that you can't even spend $20 on a book, you can actually get the audio version for free by signing up for a 1-month trial of Amazon Audible. And then the book costs $0 and you own it forever. And if you don't like Audible, you can cancel after 1 month or anytime within that month. So you literally can score my book for nothing. So nobody really has any reason to complain about that. And it's not very expensive anyway. So the dreams are very valuable, but if you really want to go into the high octane thing, you got to get into this tuned trance telepathy where you're attempting to bring words through from higher level beings. So as this was being done with the Law of One contact, they had a total of about 120 sessions. I think it was 126, something like that. It started in 1981 and it ended in 1983. When I found the books, it was 1996, and the story is in my new book, and it just absolutely blew me away because by that point, I had spent 3 years studying the heck out of the UFO field. I emptied out the 000 section in the local libraries. I had read probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 to 500 books. I don't really know, but it was around at least 300. And I would buy any new books as they came out, even though I was totally impoverished as a college student, barely had enough money for food. Thank God I had the meal plan. What was I spending my money on? Education for myself. I was getting an education in UFOs. Now, why did I care so much? I've said this many times. You don't want repeated material, but a couple of you might not know this. When I was a sophomore in college, and I had just gotten myself out of a debilitating substance abuse problem where I was using some alcohol and sometimes binge drinking, and sometimes I blacked out, I think, once. I vomited on alcohol several times. I went to parties where I saw all kinds of crazy, horrible stuff going on. College parties can be really, really gnarly. And I also did take psychedelic drugs. So I didn't have positive experiences on psychedelics. I always felt tuned.
I mean, at least he didn't lie. You understand what I'm saying? He kept that shit straight on down. He kept it real as he could. You know, he told us about his background, told us about his life. He was substance abusing, you feel me? I wonder what drove him to substance abuse. What drove him crazy? What made him, you feel me, take it all the way there? Because y'all all know it'll always be something in our lives, you feel me? And I can guarantee once he learned what he learned, like the things he's spilling and telling us right now, I guarantee you that blew his mind even more, because he like, damn, all my life I probably punished myself for thinking this, feeling that way. You know what I'm saying? For living like this or never making it this far. And the whole time I ain't even have to do nothing. He saw everything. With this, let's keep going.
Into the earth and the earth's consciousness and the idea that something is really, really wrong and we're not paying attention to it. I lived through the 1980s in which the threat of nuclear war was omnipresent. We were always not knowing when or if something like that was going to happen. It wasn't until many years later that I discovered that they actually did want to do this because they had a gigantic infrastructure built underground with tunnel boring machines, or TBMs, where they created cities. And it's not like it's just an indoor facility. I'm talking about inside the earth, it's like bubble wrap. There's all these caverns that are 20 to 60 miles wide. And you can live inside these. They have atmosphere. For some, probably, again, consciously divine reason, the divine creator did this. They typically...
Wait, he said for some reason the divine creator made inside cabins inside of the earth where you can live at. Y'all heard what this man just said out of his damn mouth, just like I heard what he said out of his goddamn mouth, right? You gotta be kidding me. And I think this is why, you know, he was acting the way he was acting in this video. That's why he was getting them calls he was getting. That's why they was trying to play him like, look, they can't hear you. Nobody can hear you. Your camera is off, this, that, and the other. You feel me? Like, they knew he had some information. And he's a whistleblower. Y'all heard him say it in the first video. If you haven't watched it, he said it. He said, I've been blowing the trumpet for so many years about things like this. And they threatened him to take his channel, and also not only just his channel, probably kill his family, kill his wife. You feel me? And I think that's why he ended himself April 20th, 2026, because the threats was already coming. He wasn't in fear of what they was going to do to him. He already got his message out there to the world. So, you know, ultimately he ended up paying for it, you know, and it was made to seem to us to be a suicide, which was very sick.
Typically have a bioluminescent bacteria that grows on the ceilings of these domes, which actually gives you a low light. There are civilizations that live in there, and over time, their eyes adapt to the low light conditions, and they get larger and larger and larger. So that explains some of the ET phenologies that we see. So when you have a facility like this, where you have a natural cave underground that actually has light, it also has running water that's drinkable water, and it also has life. They're typically little white things like you would see down at the bottom of the ocean. Remember, down in the Mariana Trench, they have silicon-based life that's not even carbon-based at all. Totally different type of life that grew down there with no light.
Now listen, y'all, listen to this part.
An extraordinary cold. So apparently these caves are very common, and you can go in there, and probably all those little guys that are alive in there don't really do very well, but I don't think most people care. You know, we're talking about the military-industrial complex, which in the past hasn't necessarily had the best track record. But what you can do is you can actually terraform it and make it into a city. You can grow grass, you can grow trees, you can bring in birds, you can bring in lizards, you can bring, well, there's definitely lizards down there, but that's a whole other discussion. Get it? And they're big, they're 14 feet tall, and they're nasty, and they have sharp teeth, but we'll get into that some other time.
Wait, he said there's lizards under the world inside the earth where these other civilians are living. You feel me? With the big eyes, in which they told us were ETs. He said they are lizards 14 feet tall. Now, gang, you can't make this type of shit up. This is shit you cannot make up. Right? Let's keep going, gang. Let's keep going.
Anyway, they build cities with buildings and roads, and they have cars that don't emit any pollution because they don't want to create that down there. You have big ventilation fans that duct out air to the outside. Sometimes they'll open...
Now listen to this part, gang, because all of us around Milwaukee, if you in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or I even seen it on every social media platform, you know, from different states of people reporting this weird sound coming from the sky. You understand what I'm saying? And if you know, you know. If you know what I'm talking about, comment in the comment section. You feel me? But have you ever heard the trumpet sound coming from the sky? You feel me? It'd be loud as hell, real disruptive like. But check this out, y'all. Listen. Now listen to what he's saying now. I'm going to take it back just a little bit.
The pollution, because they don't want to create that down there. You have big ventilation fans that duct out air to the outside. Sometimes they'll open the iris a little bit, and it's the same effect as when you blow through a trumpet. You get this terrifying growling noise that has been heard all over the world, and people thought it was the trumpets of the apocalypse or something. No, it's just It's just when they ventilate out of these underground bases, if they don't open it up all the way, it's the same as blowing a trumpet. And then the shaft that the air passes through becomes the trumpet funnel. And it starts to vibrate and make very, very disturbing noises. So you have buildings down there, you have, and there's a whole bunch of people. Beginning in the 1950s, there was something called the brain drain. And according to one of the insiders I'm going to be talking about today, Pete Peterson, 85 million people were brought into this world in which they either went underground or off planet. And they never came back to the surface again. Most of them never came back to the surface, and they were mandated by law to have lots of children. And if you want to see a dramatization of those kinds of cultures, you look at something like Divergent, the movie series. That apparently, whether they did it intentionally or whether it's a telepathic download from our mass consciousness, Divergent is very similar to how these societies work, in which people are assigned different categories. They have different roles depending on what caste they're put in, essentially, and they're forced to have children, which Divergent doesn't really go into that too much. So they would be sitting pretty underground. If you have roughly 250 of these underground facilities, they can flex and hold up to 65,000 people. That's a lot. So everybody's got a ticket down there. And
it almost explains the missing people thing. And literally, that explains why all these people keep coming up missing. More people coming up missing. They missing. At the end of the day, maybe, and just maybe, you feel me, like a 75 out of 100% maybe, that they can be missing and taking these people, you feel me, and taking them down there to work, to complete a task down there, because maybe someone else down there has been switched in position or has died off or whatever. Or no, actually, the death part can't be real either, because he already said something about death. None of that stuff there. I don't know when he get to it, but it blew me. It blew my mind at the end of the day. He probably is going to say it real soon, but
the elite, of course, had their tickets to go down there, so they weren't worried about the seemingly impossible paradox of a nuclear war. They would have been okay. But if you study the work of astronauts like Dr. Edgar Mitchell, if you look at the Michael Hayes 2011 National Press Club events, which again is excellent, and also his movie is excellent. A lot of people came forward at that time to reveal they had seen UFOs over nuclear missile installations, power them down and render them inert, and then the ship would go away and they'd come back online again. Just recently, this has been formally acknowledged to be true. Luis Elizondo, who is now the face of the AATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, there's the hint. Luis Elizondo said, okay, yeah, we've had these ships come over these nuclear missile installations and power them down, and we find it to be very frightening.
Wait, hold on. Did he say threat program? First off, a program, we all know what a program is, correct? I'm sure we do. Let me look it up, y'all. And the reason I said it is because it is meant for me to look it up, right? Yes, it is. Let me see. No. Programs are composed of algorithms, how data is processed, data structures, how information is stored, and control structures, the order of operations. So this can be a program in an order of operation. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying, right? So it also says execution. Programs are executed by a processor, taking inputs, manipulating data, and producing outputs. Languages. They are created using programming languages. So now this is the computer program. No, we ain't talking about that. So we okay, hold on, wait. I got one even better, y'all. Let me see. Let me do this, right? We'll take it right here. We're gonna look up government programs, right? Yeah, that's what we want to do. So key aspect of government purpose to address social needs, regulate industries, or provide support such as social security. Now, let me see the definition, because I want to see what this totally means, right? And maybe in Hebrew too. Right. And Latin, definitely. Because you feel me, it's like we need to know, man. Agree on something. You understand? Okay, the term program refers to a structured plan, set of instructions, or a schedule. Below are its definitions. So they even finna give me definitions. And as you heard it, it says it right here itself. It is a Hebrew word in terms of a plan, schedule, or a computer program. Right. Now, plan and schedule, okay. This still in Hebrew, y'all. A plan, scheme, project, or schedule. Now, software, okay, boom. This in Hebrew. Software, computer program. What else we got? Verb, okay. To program, this still in Hebrew. Latachnet, to program. Okay. To program a computer. Okay. And then they say related, root. It's still in Hebrew, right? Nah, I don't want to fuck up the word I already did. Which implies content, structure, or plan. So if this was a plan and program in which he said everything is casted centrally, that's what he said, gang, out of his own mouth. He said that. Shout out to the Maverick Approach for mentioning central casting. That's the first time I heard it. I only heard it there, but he said it, right? Let's keep going.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm actually pretty psyched. Luis Elizondo said, okay, yeah, we've had these ships come over these nuclear missile installations and power them down, and we find it to be very... The Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, there's the hint. Luis Elizondo said, okay, yeah, the hint. TIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, there's the hint. Luis Elizondo said, okay, yeah, we've had these ships come over these nuclear missile installations and power them down, and we find it to be very frightening. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm actually pretty psyched that there's somebody out there who has the consciousness to stop us from having a nuclear war. Because one of the briefings that we got, if you've heard me talk about this, I've heard this from at least 4 different insiders, is that after the fall of the Iron Curtain around 1991, thereabouts, there was a mass event in the world where all of the different nuclear missiles that we had, we as in everybody, doesn't matter what country it was, their warheads melted down, and their guidance systems were so disabled that they were no longer able to fly in a straight line. They just go all around like that. That appears to be part of why Russia tapped out.
Apparently you can go from 0 to a complete site in just a single...
Gang, the shit he's saying is crazy to me. If you ask me, now I heard about the UFO taking out the missile before. You know, I definitely heard that part. But the shit, the extra shit he's saying, you know, it's sort of, it's giving me the idea and the feeling and the thought of, you know, they've been knew this. You know, that's what it's giving me.
movie Above Majestic, along with this Sri Yantra mandala that appeared in the desert, which I've heard some people try to say it was a hoax, but if it was a hoax, it's an incredibly, incredibly good one. And even if that's true, those people very likely were influenced to make that formation at the time they did so that it would signify this massive change in the world that we didn't get to know about yet. Another thing I really love is if you look at the science of crop circles, which again is way outside the spectrum of what we're going to do in one video here. There was a very, very amazing crop circle that appeared just less than a month before 9/11 and in 2001. And it's one of the biggest formations we've ever seen. It's all, you see the tractor lines and they're 40 feet apart, and it's got like 8 or 9 tractor lines wide. It's this huge, beautiful spiraling shape. And that, I think, was again showing that we're going to be okay in the long run, even though we go through a very upsetting moment in time. So where is all this heading for us right now? When you have benevolent ETs that melt down all your warheads, which I don't think they're going to tell us that anytime soon on the NYT. That's not going to be the first one you hear. That's very, very, very classified. Maybe they'll do it. Maybe they'll release it just because I put it out there. I don't know. If they really want to scare the pants off of everybody. But these people do not want us to do this because we're not just going to hurt our own planet and our own species and our own civilization. There are lots of different extraterrestrial human groups apparently living inside these various cavities in the earth. So there are cities down there that some of these beings have that are much more advanced than the stuff that we've built, we as in the military-industrial complex, made by humans on Earth. There's all different types of civilizations here, and there's, in some cases, very large populations. And again, this might sound crazy, but when you really start tapping into the UFO phenomenon, you realize they're not coming from a long ways away to get here, everybody. They're not all, oh, I wonder if they're grays from Zeta Reticuli. Okay, well, that's maybe one place that some of these beings came from. But again, try to wrap your head around this. Ufology has become mainstream. They're talking to you about it in the New York Times. You have official government sources saying multiple discs have crashed. We retrieved them. That's all they're going to say right now. And what they don't understand is your popularity on the internet is only as good as the strength of your ideas. And so if you're trying to peddle a very limited idea that you think about it for a few minutes and then you go on with your life, there's already all these other ideas out there that are very fascinating, that are very complex, that go into all this depth, and that's the study of ufology. So, like, why are they trying to just crash our party and act like this is new? That's why it doesn't track. People aren't really paying attention. It hasn't created any big kerfuffle of any kind, okay? But the fact that it's been acknowledged is irrefutable. I'm going to show you this in just a minute. So, like, what's the big deal? Okay. Do you need the government to tell you that it's true? Do you need the nanny state, if you want to use that term, to hold your hand? It's okay. It's okay. You can believe now. We're not going to make fun of you anymore. We're not going to ostracize you. You're not going to lose your job. You're not going to lose your friends. You're not going to be called stupid. Now it's okay. Well, they're not really doing a very good job of this because there's been a disinformation psychological operation going on to humiliate and dehumanize anybody who is an experiencer ever since it started with the Kenneth Arnold sightings in 1947, followed shortly thereafter by the Roswell crash.
And around 1947, I believe, is when one of the higher upper general rankees inside the military mentioned something about America making a contract or, committing to a contract with these extraterrestrials. And then he turned around and said, first he tried to say it was for the cows, for food for them. And then he turned around and said, well, actually it was humans that was hurt in the process. You feel me? He was like, the interviewer was like, well, are you saying that they basically came for humans? And he was like, well, you take your pick, cows or humans, whatever. And he was like, why? He said for genetic testing or whatever. And basically America, our military, fucking allowed them to kidnap, take, scoop up snatch away our humans, you feel me, for genetic splicing. You feel me? And that's the scariest, craziest thing ever in life. But to hear him say there are over tons of different species on Earth that live inside the Earth, that is by far crazy. That's
the Roswell crash. It's a fact. Edgar Mitchell, the same astronaut, interviewed over 40 different eyewitnesses to it who had, in some cases, seen the bodies, transported the wreckage. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about, or that we are talking about right now, I don't ever like to say we're going to talk about whatever, is that a being that came out of the ship in the Roswell crash, I'll go wide on this one, a being that came out of the ship on the Roswell crash was holding this box in his hands. And so some of them lived, okay? One of them, I guess, died pretty fast. Another one ended up living for a while, and they called him EB, or extraterrestrial biological entity. For those of you who've studied ufology, this is old and boring, so I'm not going to go into detail. But what you may not know is that EB, or one of his buddies, was holding on to this little box, and they got...
And that sounds like that movie. It sounds like he describing almost something similar to that movie E.T. The movie E.T. phone, right? And that's how real you know it is, because they fucking went out and actually made a movie about it, and they threw it in our face. Slap, here you go. You motherfuckers want to talk about it since you think this and that. You feel me? Like, gang, like, what the hell? I would have never imagined that in a million years, my boy. Let's keep going though, man. That's what we finna do. So, because I ain't gonna give y'all everything today. I already did the part one. So let's keep going.
Got a hold of the box, and what they discovered was that when you interface with it with your consciousness, these are all consciousness-assisted technologies, the box opens up like the petals of a flower, and then inside is this weird, colorful grid. I think I have a slide where you're going to see this. And then above the box is an image that's like a three-dimensional hologram, and it's beautiful. It's very crisp, very sharp, very clear. And this apparently was the navigation system for the craft. It was a consciousness-assisted navigation system. This is consciousness technology. So you think about where you might want to go in space and ultimately in time, and then the hologram will show you that approximate location. If you
hold the fuck up, are y'all listening to this man? He said the alien that came out of the craft gang got a machine, got a box that opens up when you do it with your mind, when you think about it, and you gotta have a coherent vision. You gotta have a strong coherence. Once you do, you think about where you want to go and what time, like the year. That gots to be some crazy shit. What the
you decide, yes, that's where I want to go, you will the ship to fly to that location. The ship has a system which, as it turns out, is based in the seat. All you need is the seat from the UFO. This is the Montauk Project, which we're going to talk about later, and my whistleblower. I'm going to give you his real name for the first time and all the stuff that he didn't want me to tell you about himself until he had died. That's part of why I'm doing this, okay? And you're going to see his picture, and this is a world exclusive. Anyway, what he said was that a portal will open up in front of the ship as you think about where you want to go, and then you fly through the portal and you arrive where you need to go. So the cube was some type of navigation system that allowed you to visualize where you want to go, and then you make the decision and you make the trip. But the cube apparently could be brought out, and it's not like they had wires. I mean, come on, it's wireless. So it's sitting there on the dashboard. You think about where you want to go, and whoop, there you go. So fascinating beyond belief.
Listen, that shit is beyond believable. That shit right there blow the fuck out of me. And I'm not gonna lie to you, because the only simple fact it blows me is because we seen shit like this in movies. You understand what I'm saying? We have. And not for a chance would you nor I believed it. The only people that would have believed it and totally knew that it was true was scientists who experienced it, right?
Because they discovered very quickly that they could think about the future and they could see the future with the what they called the Orion Cube, or it was also called the Roswell Cube, but mostly it was called the Orion Cube. So when you thought about the future, you would see a potential future, but it was a particular part of reality that may or may not actually happen depending upon the choices that we make now. In other words, nobody really can fully predict the future. You can only look at probable windows of time and look at what is the strongest timeline that magnetizes the most amount of probability that that's going to happen. Now, many of the insiders who I've spoken to throughout my career, several of whom did not talk to anyone else in the entire UFO community, frankly, because they didn't trust them. They only trusted me because I didn't betray anyone. I heard multiple insiders talk to me about layered time. And this is how they try to conceptualize this, that there's these different layers of time that are stacked on top of each other, and they're all existing in simultaneity. They're all there in some parallel universe, some parallel reality. And the choices that we make moment by moment determine which timeline we magnetize. And that's really, really trippy and really, really cool. So they were able to use this Orion Cube to look into the future and to see probable windows of time. And there are other systems like Project Looking Glass that actually do the same thing, in which Project Looking Glass, and I'm sure I have slides for this. It's
what the fuck is he saying, gang? What the fuck? Gang, look, he mentioned the guy that died earlier, and then he said this is the reason he's doing what he's doing right now, right? I think him, along with the guy who died that he mentioned earlier, and also the 22 scientists that has disappeared, died, and all these other things of sort, I think these guys was going to release more of this type of information, more of this type of knowledge that nobody on planet Earth knew but them. You know how freaky that is and how scary that is, gang? These motherfuckers could have been in our house the whole time, invisible, wearing cloak. They got teleportation portals. He just said this shit out his own mouth, gang.
Modeled off of the pineal gland. I've said this many times, so again, I won't repeat myself. You can go back and watch previous videos on this channel. I did cover, again, I won't repeat this. It's modeled off of the pineal gland. I've said this many times, so again, I won't repeat myself. You can go back.
It's modeled off your third eye. Your pineal gland is right here in your head. That's what they modeled the looking glass through. Let me get the name of this machine he said before. Let me rewind.
Back and watch previous videos on probable windows of time. And there are other systems like Project Looking Glass that actually do the same thing, in which Project Looking Glass, and I'm
Project Looking Glass. That's what it's called. Project Looking Glass. At the end of the day, that's something I got to look up. I got to check it out. I got to look into it. And he said Project Looking Glass is modeled off of the pineal gland. So at the end of the day, we're gonna do a video about that. You feel me? I'm gonna do a video about that. Y'all gonna dive in there with me. We're gonna check it out together. Let's let him finish because he is popping right now. I can't even stop him. I can't.
I'm sure I have slides for this. It's modeled off of the pineal gland. I've said this many times, so again, I won't repeat myself. You can go back and watch previous videos on this channel. I did cover it in one of the big 5-hour ones that I did here a few months back in April, I believe, where the pineal gland is just a hollow area in the geographic, if you will, or the geometric center of your brain. It's right in the middle. It has more blood flow going through it than any other part of the body, and all that's inside is floating water with little crystals in it. And there's very strong evidence from guys like Dr. Rick Strassman that some of those crystals are dimethyltryptamine or DMT. So one of the things that I got really excited about was that the man who had made more synthetic DMT than anyone else in the world would dry it out into a dish, and he'd hit it with a hammer, and big flashes of color would come out, colored light from the DMT. And it could change. You could hit it with the hammer once and you get blue light. You hit it with a hammer again, you get red light. You hit it with a hammer again, you get yellow light, and on and on and on. Well, there's a very unique name for that in science. It's called piezochromatism, in which you have a compression of a crystal, which then releases light in the form of photons, which in this case can be apparently any color in the rainbow spectrum. And it varies just, I guess, if you really got technical, it would have to do with how you hit it with a hammer and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, what does this mean? This means that apparently the pineal gland is using this somehow. It's using the piezochromatic properties of DMT, which your body naturally has. So what can happen for you is that you can be meditating. And the big secret is, and I talked about this in my first book, Source Field Investigations, or in Britain it's called Hidden Science of Lost Civilizations. The interior of the pineal gland, the whole interior of it, is coated with these little cells called pinealocytes that are identical, basically identical to the rods and cones in the retina of your eye. What in the world are rods and cones doing inside your pineal gland? And best of all, there's a brain circuit that they found that goes straight from that pineal gland to the visual cortex in the brain, exactly the same as the one that comes out of your eyes. So it is a third eye. It does have retinal tissue. It does have crystals inside that at least theoretically can release colored light and send it through into the visual cortex. Now, one of the other insiders I'm going to be talking about today, the late Dr. Pete Peterson, actually described work that he did in secret government programs where with people who are alive, they drilled a little hole in your head and they sent a fiber optic cable inside your pineal gland. And apparently they were able to see the full color visual images coming through your pineal gland before they got captured by the rods and cones and before they got descrambled to whatever efficacy by your visual cortex. You have to close your eyes, you have to meditate, and you start getting these fleeting visual images. Usually when you get something through your pineal gland, it's a snapshot. It takes a lot of training and a lot of discipline to slow that down so that it's not just a split second and you can see it for a longer period of time. If you meditate enough and you practice enough, you can get to that, okay? But the really cool benefit of Project Looking Glass is that you can see what's inside somebody else's pineal gland because there is some sort of quantum correlation that takes place between the activity in your pineal gland and the activity in the machine. And of course, again, this is an extraterrestrial, highly advanced technology. As Arthur C. Clarke once said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So if you had time travelers going back into the past and they had a little screen that they were using, somebody might call that a magic mirror because they don't know what the heck an iPhone is. They don't know how you showed them that video, whatever. So, and time travel does appear to be happening. And we've gotten some really, really compelling new briefings on this, which is why that's what I titled this talk. So
the man just gave us the biggest gem of all time. Time traveling is really happening, and they got some goddamn information and debriefing about it. Everything he just described is mind-blowing. Believe you me, it is. So let's keep going, shall we? Let's go tight again here. When we look at all the evidence, when we put all the pieces together, the reason why Looking Glass worked is that they had this barrel that was in the same shape as the pineal gland, and inside the barrel was water like they had in the pineal gland. The other thing that I heard, which is sad really, is that
the other ingredient to make looking glass work is ground up dust. Get a load of this now. You can laugh. I'm giving you permission to laugh, okay? Because that's how you got to access new information if you haven't heard me say this before. Ground up dust from extraterrestrial mummies. Because apparently extraterrestrial physiology, extraterrestrial DNA, extraterrestrial genetics allows for a much higher degree of psychic energy throughput, if you will. It's like the difference between a dial-up modem versus insane fast broadband. So apparently, if you grind up the dust of one of these extraterrestrial mummies, the sheer energetic power of that DNA is what makes this technology work. So they duplicate the conditions in the pineal gland, because the other thing I didn't say is the way the pineal gland works, and this is what Dr. Pete Peterson was studying, is that you get these electromagnetic effects. It's like this whirling, all this stuff. Like if my head's a pineal gland right now, let's say, there's all these electromagnetic fields going around different directions, and they get faster and faster. And you can actually feel that when you're meditating. It's like a vibrational rush. And you just feel this, whoa, it's like your skin starts tingling. Sometimes you feel a pressure in your head. That's when your pineal gland is firing up. Like you got that snowblower or the lawnmower. You finally pull on, it gets going. As that stuff spins around, what is it doing? It's creating a Faraday cage. It's creating electromagnetic shielding so that there's no electromagnetic energy, no radio frequencies, no TV, no cell frequencies, nothing getting inside your pineal gland. At that point, when it's electromagnetically shielded, the DMT apparently kicks in, and it allows you to start accessing these realms of consciousness, and it goes outside of linear time. So the way that they duplicated this, whoever invented this, apparently it was from an ancient civilization dating back at least 12,000 years ago. That was their conclusion. The dreaded A word, Atlantis, right? This technology would somehow create a quantum coupling, a quantum correlation with whoever is standing in front of the machine. So nobody could get too close. Only the guy that's going to run the thing. You got to be a good meditator. So then when you try to think about what areas in the future you want to look at, it's all visible on this display, because the machine has these rings that spin around the barrel. There's 3 rings. They spin around the barrel. They create that electromagnetic shielding, and then it's all encased inside a bubble that's filled with argon gas. And argon, there's some very interesting things related to argon. When you get into the work of Dr. Kenneth Shoulders, this amazing charge cluster technology, which is it's one of the main contenders of what we're going to use to build hover cars, because you can create anti-gravity with these little things. It turns out that if you send electrical current, sorry I'm jumping around a little bit, but hang in with me. If you send electrical current down a needle and it comes off the point of the needle, you get this little ball of energy. And the ball of energy has all these very strange properties that shouldn't happen. It has way more electrostatic charge than it normally would. So it's got much, much greater energy in a much smaller package than it normally would, and it repels gravity. Plus, if you generate these charge clusters and you pass them through radioactive material, you deradiate the material. So when we start using charge cluster technology, we get free energy, because these things, if you generate a whole bunch of them, you get a lot of free energy out of it, more than it seems to take to generate, which is really true. That's just the nature of how charge clusters form. They attract more energy than it takes to make them. And then they emanate that energy. So they generate energy, they generate a gravitational pull that you can either push or pull with it. And they also are, again, deradiating radioactive material when you pass it through the material. So as I've talked about in other videos, I'm not going to run through all of it again. There have been these declassified patents filed by a man apparently named Salvatore Pais, and they are for a device called the HAUC, H-A-U-C, Hybrid Air Underwater Craft. And it's basically a flying black triangle, and the patent describes exactly how to build it and says that it is anti-gravitic. And in the other videos I've done, we have compelling evidence that they've already built these. They know how they work. And Salvatore Pais also patented a compact fusion reactor that's all these little needles that whirl around, which is how you make charge clusters, okay? And that is a power system you could drop in the thing. The other thing I talked about before is that the Hawk craft is like a peanut. So there's a nut inside and then a shell on the outside, and that hollow area between the interior hull and the exterior hull, there's all these little needles where they can generate the charge clusters. So you generate them and then you steer them, and by first generating them, you then point them where you want to go, and that's how you get anti-gravity. So because I am working on hover car technology right now, I'm not joking. I'm not going to talk about it until we've got something for you, but we're getting pretty close. Once we get to that point, I can talk a lot more, but several of Pete Peterson's former associates I'm working with on this, and it's very, very real. We expect that once we get financed, hopefully, that we'll have an operational working prototype within 1 year, and that we could go into mass production within 4 years, where you will have a hover car in your garage at an affordable price. One of the designs that we have, I have schematics of it, the wings fold up like this so you can get it into the garage, because you do actually need some wings for like these ionic type of propulsion systems. You're shooting an ion cannon out the back, you have the anti-gravity, but you need thrust. So the wings kind of allow you to be what they call a flux liner. You're riding the gravitational flux instead of an airliner that uses air. And because it's hybrid air underwater craft, you can also fly underwater with these at a much, much greater rate of speed than would normally be possible with that kind of a system. So I'm very, very excited about the technology that we're going to have. And again, it's been handed to us. The military has handed it to us. And as I've said before, Salvatore Pais translates as savior of our nation. Salvatore, savior. Pais, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I'm sorry, I'm probably mangling it. Pais means nation or country. So why would the military save our country by releasing these patents? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. We've talked about Space Force. I've done a lot of other videos suggesting that this forbidden technology is going to be part of what we're going to get. And the company that I'm working with is one of about 5 that I've been briefed on that are all working on this. And we're all in kind of like a little race with each other of who's going to do it first. Now, one of those companies that may or may not be in the 5, of course, is the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. The former lead guitarist and lead singer of Blink-182, Tom DeLonge, kind of face planted when he went on Joe Rogan, and he was all twitchy and funny when he was talking. And I don't really mean any harm to this guy. It's just like, you know, if everybody comes to you and they hand all this stuff to you on a silver platter, it's probably not true.
This is by far crazy, gang. Now, I seen the Blink-182 guy. You know, they talked about this on TMZ, and it was for a split second. They didn't never say anything else about it, right? I was wondering, what really happened? They said something about he was involved with another Army top ranker that he knew, and he, I guess, must have slipped up and told some secrets that the Army guy told him. You know what I'm saying? And they said something about he was jittery. That's what this guy talking about. But I didn't know how serious it was, because like I said, he didn't speak anymore. We didn't hear from him. We didn't even hear of this story no more after that. A lot of people right now today, they was looking like, what the fuck is they talking about? Alien what? UFO what? Army general what? Like, didn't nobody really care, because at the moment, it was so much taking place and going on around the world, like at that moment. So, you know, if you ask me, I feel like everybody let it fly over their head, like they doing now. Everybody let all the UFO shit fly over their head for some odd reason. I don't think it's real.
Insiders were hard earned over many, many years. I reached out to him through a mutual associate. He never contacted me, and I did offer him this company before I got involved in the company I'm talking about that I'm now a part of. I tried to give it to Tom DeLonge. I gave him the contact info. I told him what it was, and he had the option to get involved, and he never called them. So before I took a crack at this myself, I said, well, if Tom DeLonge is out there saying that they want to get anti-gravity going, I don't really care how it gets done. Let's just get it done. I mean, I do care to a degree, but like ultimately—
Now, y'all remember Amy Eskridge was trying to get anti-gravity going too. Maybe she was actually going to speak out and tell the secrets about anti-gravity and how to actually get it created. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, if you ask me, I feel like everybody who try to get this started, everybody who try to speak on anything about this topic, they get murdered, they get killed, or their death is made to seem like they did it themselves, like they was depressed, like they overdosed, like they, was going through a situation with family, their wives, or some shit like that. Like, and it's the craziest thing ever, gang, if you ask me. Like I said, go check out the 22 scientists who ended up dead or missing. You understand what I'm saying? And Trap Lord Ross, he reported it. I reported it on my podcast, things of that nature. If you ask me, it was a lot of us who reported it. We posted it. We talked about it. But let's keep going with his message, gang, because he popping his shit, right? Let him pop.
As Pete Peterson used to say, don't count your chicken, you're wiping grease off of your... You're not really going to get anything out of this. You're not really going to get anything out of having this technology, and then nobody develops it. So if Tom... the middle... symbols. So that's not necessarily bad, but like when you start to think about the fact that you have to contain an oath of secrecy here, and it just really disturbed people when Tom went on Joe Rogan and he was this and he wouldn't talk about that, and he's very cagey, and he's all twitchy and stuff. Ever since that happened, they never brought him out as a public figure except in very scripted, pre-taped segments. He never did.
Look, I told y'all, we never seen him again. We never seen him again after that situation happened. After that took place, we never seen Tom DeLonge again. Well, they pushed his ass back. Like, look, you did too much, you said too much, and you talked too much. You better hope we don't kill you. You feel me? Shut up, sit back, get to the back. We'll write you a script, and then we'll send you back out there. You understand? That's it.
Anything live again, and they switched to Luis Elizondo. Luis Elizondo is now the face of this. And again, I don't have any intrinsic problem with what they're doing. But if this is not the full story, or if they're going to try to spin it to say that all extraterrestrials are evil and threats, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program.
Hey, you know what's funny? This is what Dr. Stephen Greer said. You feel me? This is exactly what he said. And I also witnessed my son telling me something like this also, like, they're going to try to make us believe that these aliens are attacking us. That's what they're going to stage. They're going to stage a fucking alien attack, an alien invasion. You feel me? Everybody kept saying this. Now, you got to wonder, you got to ask yourself, where the hell did that rumor come from? Who started it and who's ending it? And also, the number one question we can't forget, who's making sure it continues to get spread? Well, he just said it out of his own mouth. He's a whistleblower. Like I said, may he rest in peace. He just took his own life, allegedly, quote unquote, April 20th, 2026. You feel me? And they got the whole story all on Google. Said the sheriff was there. They seen him put the gun to his head and shoot himself. Like, if anything, I believe, and this what I believe. You can hate it or love it. If anything, I believe they was telling him and threatening him so heinously, like with Amy Eskridge. They probably hit him with the energy weapon. Feel me? They probably did the same thing. You could affect your whistleblower. You know about things that they do not want him to tell. You understand what I'm saying? Because if you look back, General McCaslin haven't been found yet. All these missing people haven't been found yet. The wife ain't even talking about it on the news no more. You understand what I'm saying? General McCaslin's wife haven't even spoke out about her husband. Now that's the crazy part of the
Then yeah, we have a problem. Because the UFO field is so vast. I mean, I've been doing this for so long. There's so many pieces of information I can whip out of my hat and tell a completely different story of how to paint the picture. You know, it's like all these colors I have to play with of what kind of art I want to make when talking about UFOs, because there's so much data. It's just staggering. So anyway, let's go back to the slide again. These, as I said, 2020 has been the biggest mass
Hey, and I'm gonna be real with you. I think he even took himself out just so they don't get the satisfactory of killing him because he blew the whistle, because he told so much information. I mean, I think he killed himself, you know, just in time before they was finna do it to him. You know, that's what I believe. Let's keep going though.
Event of all time, and these mass consciousness events are leading to the awakening of our collective mind, as I was saying, and you can see that with things like the meditation effect. So if the meditation effect is happening now, and we can start to create that goodwill, then we can steer this thing. We don't have to be feeling powerless against violence. And again, I don't recommend getting all churchy and thinking that you have to do a mass meditation. The real secret is for you to maintain that positivity, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, whatever's going on in your life, just keep that positive focus, stay grounded, stay peaceful all the time. And I understand that it's never been more difficult to do that than it is now, but it's never been more important for you to do that than it is now. So again, let's go back to the slide. As I was saying before, and you know, shameless plug of my book title, we are now awakening in the dream that we were once so convinced was reality. The real world is much different than what we are being presented with in the media right now. That's obvious. We've already been talking about that. The truth is being suppressed, censored on an epic scale, and it's a very difficult thing to process. Talked about the idea that ETs are not all evil. They are the root of all major world religions, world traditions. They're out there, folks. They've been doing this for a long time. They are protecting us. That's why they haven't let us have a nuclear war. It seems very disingenuous for me, for Luis Elizondo to try to say that this is a dangerous thing, that this is a bad thing. And I understand if you're in the military, you got to see everything as a threat. It's your job, right? If somebody's powering down this installation, yeah, you know, we got to look at this as a very credible threat. And they also recently, another article that they came out with was saying, oh my God, in one incident, somebody was trying to go after a UFO and his radar got scrambled. That's an act of hostility. Did the craft engage? Meaning, did they power up weapons and did they fire? No, there was no engagement.
Hey, correct. He got a point, because, you know, throughout all these stories and throughout all these disclosures of them knocking down UFOs and retrieving these UFOs and reverse engineering them, you understand what I'm saying? Not one time did we hear anybody saying, as they shot at them, you feel me, they turned around and attacked. Even when they showed us the goddamn video on Fox 6 News about the UFO that was flying, you feel me? I don't know if that was across the ocean, the sky, whatever it was. They say it was the water, but as it was flying, they threw a missile at it, right? And the missile bounced right off. And what did the UFO do? It kept flying. It continued its route. You feel me? At a fast rate of pace. Like, come on, man. This shit by far shows you and tells you, if it don't tell you, it let me know that they are not violent. They are not hostile. They are here doing whatever studies they doing. You feel me? Y'all agreed upon them being here. And that shows me the reason they are here so much without attacking nobody is because they were allowed here. That's why y'all only show videos of, you know, y'all trying to chase it or y'all trying to catch it, trying, quote unquote, because y'all already know somebody seen their ass enter this damn atmosphere. God damn, somebody done seen that UFO enter into Earth's atmosphere. So now what we got to do, I know what we got to do. We got to play it off. We got to make up a video. We're going to create a video today, acting like we was chasing them. You feel me? Get them back on the line. Tell them to come back up here. You feel me? Y'all fucked up. Y'all know y'all did, right? We got to chase y'all now around Earth and put this out as news and tell people aliens are here. We chased the UFO, but couldn't get it. Couldn't catch it. Like some of the weirdest shit. I think what he doing, he already knew he put his life at risk. He knew he put himself in danger. He put not just himself, his whole family in danger, saying what he's saying. Everything he's saying on these videos, gang, he knew what was going to take place after this shit, right?
And again, it seems very disingenuous, very kind of ridiculous and silly to try to make people afraid, as if we don't have enough to be afraid of already. Now they want us to be afraid of evil aliens, and that everything is evil. Everything extraterrestrial oriented is bad. And oh my God, we're scared now. And you should be scared too, everybody, because if you don't already have enough stuff to be scared about, you need to be scared about this too.
And one thing I want to say about what he's doing. When I watched the Amy Esker's video, when I watched her, one of a few of her last videos that was made by her, she was, consistently and persistently wiping her nose like this, as if she was, snorting, or as if she was high off some cocaine, some powder. The thing, like, they were so worried out their mind of what they was doing, the information they was spilling. It seemed like they were so scared. The threats were so imminent or intimate, or, the threats were so fucking horrific to them, and they felt so bad for other people that was being threatened or harmed. Because I'm not sure if he lost family behind this, if he, you feel me, if things took place in his life behind it, him becoming a whistleblower, but it seemed like they kept doing this. They had this problem, the nose wiping problem. That let me know they was on a high dosage of drugs. For one, these guys that speak, Amy Eskerich and him, David Wilcock, were rich, famous people. They were very known, widely known. You feel me? They had a lot of money, a lot of connections. Just because they got everything together, it seems like, just because they work in the type of position they work in, high-ranking scientists, high-ranking physicians, you feel me, does not mean, or do not mean, that they don't scoop to the lower level. Don't mean that they don't be in hoods. Don't mean that they deal with people or don't deal with people who deal with drugs. You understand? At the moment in their life when they was most stressful, when they was so scared, when they was so in fear, you feel me, for what was going to take place for them speaking. And we're supposed to have the right to speak freely in this country, in America, the land of the free. These guys had to take drugs. You feel me? These guys had to suppress that fear with drugs and continue to, you feel me, spill the beans, whistleblow, as they call it now. Well, let's.
Let me really zoom in on the. I'm not buying it. Why? Because why are you guys cherry picking a tiny little subset of the data of UFOs, which is so huge? You cherry pick a little bit and you look for the most negative stuff you can find, and then you amplify it. Ah! Your hair's on fire like Beaker. Oh my God. Come on, man. And that's the Muppet Show. It's it dates my age, but Beaker, yeah. They used to call me Beaker because at one point I shaved the sides of my head in college and only had hair on the top, which was an accident. I was trying to cut my own hair.
Gang, look, that's a sniffle and like 30 nose wipes. At the end of the day, that nigga high as hell. He on some motherfucking drugs. I can't lie. He high, but he only have to get high to suppress this shit. You feel me? They made this nigga probably go snort the goddamn cocaine. Now, he told us he was on substance abuse. He said he used to do a lot of liquor, right? Liquor abuse, right? But when you're a drinker, because my dad was a drinker, you definitely ain't wiping your goddamn nose, nor is your nose running, motherfucker. You feel me? None of that shit, right? But the shit he's doing is to certainly suppress his goddamn tolerance for the fear that they have put him through, the high stress level fear that they have put this man through. I ain't gonna give y'all the whole rest of the video because, like I said, it's 4 hours. That was 1 hour and 22 minutes in. I gotta remember that, so I'm gonna keep that as a marker because this is part 2. And at the end of the day, you feel me? I feel like, but fuck what I feel like. I'm gonna do exactly what's internal, what I feel in here. I'm gonna post it anyway. But I feel like, yeah, if I post that, maybe they'll take it down, maybe they won't. Who knows? Who really cares? At the end of the day, gang, this is some deep shit. And I think this is why America is so scared now. This is why they are franticing. If you ask me, I think they are franticing. You feel me? All over CNN, on every news station, every news channel, they are acting like they're franticing, like he said. And Dr. Stephen Greer said they're going to stage a fucking alien attack, an alien threat. You know, all the movies showed us. So pay attention, keep your eyes open, man. Make sure you meditate, keep your mind focused, stay positive, because there's so much bullshit taking place right now around you, around me, around the world, globally, that is keeping us distracted from staying positive and sticking together and learning how to cope or cooperate or even team up and, you feel me, overcome the odds. So love y'all, man. Make sure y'all keep your heads up. I am out.
The gang, them grew up in piling. Couple of groupies to fit with. High, no turbulence, vibing. Higher than you niggas getting. Flying while you niggas flyless. Your kind is scooter dependent. I come something new when I'm driving. Driving off the roof, no ceilings. Got a skyline view when I'm riding.